this computer. Okay, so record is in progress. Hare Krishna. So welcome everyone. Hare Krishna. Bhagavatamrta. Thank you for joining us. Hare Krishna. So last week I found it interesting, very interesting, is remember Gopal Kumar, he's gone from the heavenly realm and he's somewhat innocent. He's not aware of the different we could say the universal system. And he's in the heavenly planets, and the great sages come, and they're named. One of those sages' names is, someone can remind us, who was deputed to find out who is the supreme?
Can't remember.
No, nor can I. Think of it. He went to Lord Shiva, then he went to Lord Brahma, then he went to Lord Vishnu.
Was it Brigu Maharaj?
Brigu.
Brigu.
Was that correct? Yeah, thank you. Yeah. So anyway, so then he hears about a realm above the heavenly planets, and he goes to the realms of the sages, and he's offered the position of an exalted Brahmana, but he doesn't wish to become designated as a Brahmana. Instead, he wishes to serve the Brahmanas. He fears he might get overcome with pride. Very interesting. Rather than be a Brahmana, he just wants to remain as a servant of the devotees, stroke Brahmanas. So that's where we're joining it. In very briefly, we're joining it there. And I'm pretty sure we're on text 50. Let's moving things around on my screen. We're on text 58. Okay, I'll just read 57. For these Brahmanas thought performing sacrifice is the only interest in life. If I were to become one of them, surely I would become lax in the chanting I am duty bound to continue. My divine guru taught me to worship this mantra. Besides, I've already seen its good results. So before I begin, Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Bhastaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swamiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Vachaline Nivasesha Sunyavadi Pashtatara Satarine Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sari Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. Okay, welcome Mother Jambavati. She just joined us. Hare Krishna. So we have Mother Sahachari. She has a hand up. So you can read from text 58. And I'm just going to turn my heating off and come back.
Okay. Thank you. Shall I?
Yes, go ahead. Oh,
okay. Tatastha anumanaham anangikrityam vipratam tatra vasam svato jata prajapati mahasukhay. Therefore, while showing respect to the sages, I declined the status of a Brahmana, but I stayed on Mahaloka, enjoying the exalted pleasures that automatically appear in the world of the Prajapatis. Text 59. On Mahaloka, there were no faults, nor were there sorrow, nor apprehensiveness. There was nothing but festivals of sacrifice for the pleasure of the Lord of sacrifice. Commentary. On Swargaloka, Gopakumara detected subtle signs of lust, envy, anger, rivalry, and false pride. But on Mahaloka, these faults were non-existent. There were no sorrow from defeat by opponents or from any other cause. There was no fear of the destruction of the world or fear of individual degradation. Without these distractions, the residents of Mahaloka gave themselves fully to worshipping the Supreme Lord with festive Vedic sacrifices. The residents were completely uninterested in mundane sense gratification. Text 60. But at the end of each sacrifice, unhappiness would arise when the Lord disappeared, and when the Lord reappeared at the start of another sacrifice, happiness would begin again. Commentary. At the end of a sacrifice, Lord Yagneshwara would disappear, but because he was controlled by the love shown by his servants, he would not stay invisible for long. Still, this brief cause of discontent was enough to plant in Gopakumara's heart a seed of desire to find an even better place. Text 61. At the end of 1000 cycles of ages, for that place one day, the conflagration of the three worlds forced us to take refuge of Janaloka. Commentary. Mahaloka exists for the same duration as the planet of Lord Brahma, but because Mahaloka is adjacent to Swarga, its inhabitants are forced to evacuate by the heat created during the fire of annihilation that burns the lower worlds. After Mahaloka, Janaloka is the next higher planetary system. Text 62. On Janaloka, as if it were night time, no sacrifices were being performed, and the pain of not seeing the Lord of sacrifice burned more greatly than the burning of the three worlds. Commentary. There is no literal night time in self-effulgent Janaloka, but when Brahma goes to sleep along with Lord Garbhodaksa Vishnu, the lower planets merge into one vast ocean, and throughout the universe, both sacrificial and ordinary activities come to an end. When no sacrifices are performed on the planets of the sages, Lord Yagneshwara no longer appears there, and for Gopakumara, the pain of the Lord's absence was worse than the scorching fire of annihilation blasting from the mouth of Lord Sankarshana. Text 63. Then I thought it would be better to see Lord Jagannath in Sri Purusottama Ketra in the shade of the infallible banyan tree. Commentary. Lord Jagannath's abode, Purusottama Ketra, is protected by the shade of an indestructible banyan tree. Even when earth, sky, and heaven are destroyed, Jagannath Puri remains untouched. Text 64. When I returned to Mahaloka, I chanted my japa in seclusion as before. The chanting made me morose with desire to see again this land of Raj. Commentary. Gopakumara refers to this land of Raj because he is speaking to the Mathura Brahmana in Raj itself. The separation from Lord Yagneshwara that Gopakumara suffered during the partial pralaya was relatively short, but his constant remembrance of Rajabhumi more seriously threatened his happiness in Mahaloka. He might have forgotten his urge to go to Lord Jagannath, but not his attraction to Raj, which was much greater. Text 65. But then the Supreme Lord would appear, the object of sacrificial worship, the ocean of mercy. He would call me with love and sportingly eat what I brought before him. Text 66. He would then dispel all my distress, just as the rising sun drives away darkness. Bound by the one hope of being with him, I could go nowhere else, even at night. Commentary. To be sure, being unable to see Lord Yagneshwara at night was painful, but Gopakumara was so absorbed in the thought of the Lord that he was oblivious to the pain, and during the day he forgot the urge to go elsewhere because of the ecstasies of seeing Lord Yagneshwara, taking part in the festivals to worship him, and obtaining him his abundant mercy. Even during Lord Brahma's night, Gopakumara's expectations of soon enjoying this sight, this worship, and this mercy continued unbroken, binding him with a chain of hopes. Text 67. Once someone arrived from a higher planet, his forum surrounded by brilliant light. He was dressed by the directions only. He appeared to be a 5 or 6-year-old boy. Commentary. Since the residents of Mahaloka frequently travel to Janaloka, the two planets are practically a single system. The one difference between them is that on Janaloka, the fire of annihilation from below is far enough away that there is no need to flee. Gopakumara knew all this from experience. The next world for him to see was Tapaloka. So now he is being introduced to its greatness. Since up to this point in his narrative, Gopakumara has never heard of Tapaloka. He here refers to it as a higher planet. The unknown person who suddenly arrived from the higher regions looked like a small child and was naked. To go naked is normal for a 5-year-old children, at least in the natural Vedic culture.
Yeah, just a comment here so we're kind of sure of where we are. It's interesting that Gopakumara, it seems like, has been spoken of in the previous verses, that although he's ascending to different higher planetary systems, he's feeling, if I've got this correct, he is feeling a separation from, well, he mentioned Jagannath Puri and Raj as well. in comparison to where he is, he's reflecting on where he was. So he's feeling some level of dissatisfaction. But now it seems like he's going to continue going upwards, so to speak. Again, this is his innocent nature. He's so desirous of achieving constant association of the Lord that whenever he meets someone who seems to be in a devotional superior situation, then he desires to go to that abode, or they actually describe. So now probably we're going to hear about Tapaloka. So we've gone from the heavenly planets to, is it Mahaloka? And now we're going from Mahaloka to Tapaloka. But throughout this, he's feeling, he's reflecting on Raj. Now, again, this Raj, as far as they're understood, it's the Raj of, it's not the Raj exactly, although it's not different. It's the Raj where he was as a cowherd boy, but not Krishna's manifest pastimes. Just the land of Raj, because he happened to be a cowherd boy in Vrindavan, but not in Krishna's manifest pastimes there. But still he's tasting the sweetness of that abode, or he's remembering it. As far as I've understood, when he's speaking about Raj, he's speaking about not the past, not the where Krishna is manifesting his pastimes, but where these pastimes are unmanifest, if I've got this correct. Does that sound correct, devotees?
I have a question.
Please, yeah.
Because it says that once he went to Mahaloka, from Swargalok and all the systems down below Swargalok,
Mahaloka, yeah.
Brahma went to sleep and everything was devastated. That
Yeah.
means the earth is in the lower planet, so earth was also gone.
For
So
sure.
where is the Bhauma Vrindavan? Because he wanted to come to Bhauma Vrindavan, where he was born and brought up. But that
Yeah.
one is gone because it's Brahma's night.
Yeah, so he's saying there's nothing to go back to. It's all been burnt to ashes.
But he says he came back to Vrindavan.
No, not
So-
he came back. Not he came back. That he's meditating on.
Oh, I see.
He wants
Okay,
to-
okay.
He's feeling separation from.
So he's meditating. He hasn't actually come to the.
No. And
Okay.
again, in his innocence, he's going to meet some. It seems like perhaps one of the Kumaras. Let's see. He's meeting now a resident of Tapaloka. You know, just like in his innocence, he's going to be attracted to go there. And this still, it's a point because eventually, as far as I understand, then he will go back. He will be advised to go back to Raj. But this is taking place on a inconceivable span of time. So in his journey upwards, then Lord Brahma would have taken birth again and created as before Bhoma, the earthly realms. But that will, to be certain of that will probably take, like, you have to sit down with a pen and paper and a map of the universe to keep track of where Gopal Kumar is going. And perhaps we'll do that. Perhaps I'll try and find a picture. There's this nice picture that we have, isn't it, of the different planetary systems. So we can see, I just saw a picture the other day. Perhaps I'll try and drag that picture out and we can see where he's going.
Mhm.
But the main point, a main point here is that these different abodes show different levels of material perfection. But he's always feeling not complete, even when he enters these realms. Although the Lord is worshipped there, but still. Anyway, let's read on. Hare Krishna.
I wanted to, well, in a way, ask.
Yeah.
There is a bit of sadness in all the places he's going. Like everything's nice, but there is this subtle, they're feeling a bit sad. It's either the Lord's gone away or something or the other.
Yeah,
Did you
that's
Or have I
that's,
got it wrong? Because
no, that's correct.
Yeah, so there isn't like perfect situation.
Yeah, and I guess we have to say also, as we understand from hearing about Vrindavan and Krishna's pastimes, even the residents of Vrindavan, there is, although Krishna's there is also separation when Krishna goes from one place to another in Brhad, but that's of a different context. That type of separation is like definitely a full manifestation of Pippalayana. And that in itself gives that in itself is associating with Krishna in a very deep way when you're separated from him. But you're right, that's definitely what we're seeing. And I think Sanatana Goswami, in writing this, he is encouraging us not to aim for these different heavenly realms or the realms of the great sages, but our goal is Goloka Vrindavan, and that is the highest abode. So that's what's being glorified here. Presently, in an indirect way, the attainment of Goloka Vrindavan is being explained, but in an indirect way to begin with. That he's not feeling complete, so it's glorifying Krishna's abode. That's what Sanatana Goswami is doing here. That's what's happening in this story.
Yeah, you were saying about being in Goloka Vrindavan, the separation with Pralamba.
Yeah.
I was reading in CC today, actually, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, feeling that. And then I realized that externally it looks like he's like mad, but internally that love, that separation love, with Pralamba love.
That's it. It's
what you just said.
It's a different flavor of ecstasy. Like the ecstasy of Krishna consciousness is very you could say it is ecstasy because it's not static. It moves like waves in an ocean and creates different ecstatic symptoms. So when devotees are separated from Krishna, it's like the waves of their love swell to unprecedented degrees. Yeah, where they're so wrapped up in meditation on their Lord, who is now not present, that it's like it churns their love. It churns it. So love is not static, especially love for Krishna. It's not like robotic. It's full of emotion. And these emotions are brought out specifically when the lover is separated from the beloved. The emotions become churned even more. So it's another flavor. So externally to the uneducated, externally it may seem like the Lord, say for instance, Lord Chaitanya is in distress. And I guess he is, but it's not. Distress. Yeah, it's not the distress of someone who's just been given divorce papers or something like that. It's not that type of distress that they can't pay their mortgage. It's like this is another flavor of ecstasy that's churning the ocean of love for Krishna. So there has to be separation in order for that love. Well, there is separation in order that love is ever fresh. Anyway, yes. So let's read a bit more. Let's see who this little 5-year-old is. I reckon it's one of the Kumaras, but I might be. Yeah. Well, let's Mother Kunamai, you'd like to read? Yeah, hand there from.
Thank you. Text 68.
Yes.
The great sages put aside their sacrificial rituals, stood up with devotion, bowed down to the boy who was absorbed in meditation, and worshipped him as if he were the Lord of sacrifice himself. Commentary. Brigu and the others honored the little boy who remained silent. Text 69. After that person, as it pleased him, went away, I inquired from the Maharishis, who was that and where did he come from? Why is it that you great souls worshipped him? Commentary. The boy was so exalted that no force could impede him from going wherever he wanted by his own sweet will. He left as suddenly as he had come. Seeing this puzzled Gopal Kumar, the sages of Mahaloka were worshipable for the demigods. Living in a realm above all other creatures, the sages enjoyed worshipping the Lord of Sacrifice in person. Who other than the Lord could command their respect? And why had they interrupted their sacrifices to honor that visitor?
Yeah, it seems like just a small point here. This is exactly what happened when he was in the heavenly planets. For him, the heavenly planets was the ultimate place, and the Lord was worshipped with great honor and with great offerings. But then some sages from Mahaloka came, and everyone in the heavenly planets bowed down to them, offered them great respect. So he became very curious. He thought he was in the highest realm. But these persons came from Mahaloka, and the residents of the heavens seemed to have them in great esteem. So the same's happening here. Now he's in Mahaloka. Now he's in Mahaloka, and this Kumar, this young boy, is now being worshipped by those. So he's questioning, okay, so where do you come from? Like that. Yeah. Carry on, Mo.
Text 70. The Maharishi said, that person is Sanat Kumar.
Yes,
the
we got it
eldest.
right. Manu Kumar, Sanat Kumar, Hare Krishna. Go
The
on.
eldest among us and the greatest. He is the first preceptor of the self-contented sages, whose desires are always fulfilled, and he is a lifelong celibate. Commentary. The chief residents of Mahaloka are sons of Brahma, and Sanat Kumar is their brother, the eldest of the Brahma's sons. He is better than the other sages because, unlike most of them, he never entered family life, even on Brahma's request. This answers the question, who was that? Text 71. He lives in the world above ours called Tapaloka, with his 3 brothers and with other great mystics who, like him, are masters of yoga. Commentary. Here the sages answer the question, where did he come from? He is not the only one of his kind, for he has 3 brothers just as great as he, Sanak, Sanananda, and Sanatan. These 4 brothers live on Tapaloka along with other great mystics, including Kavi, Havis, Antariksh, Prabhuda, and Pippalayana.
Pippalayana.
Pippalayana. We've heard of him before, haven't we?
These are, if you read in the 11th canto, there's these sages. They I think who do they meet? These sages they meet. I think it's forget now. But their conversation and they speak the absolute truth in the 11th canto. Each of them, Kavi, Havi, Antariksha, Prabodha, and Pippalayana.
Yeah.
Sorry?
Can't remember what the fathers, I'm trying to think.
Yeah, perhaps if someone there, because someone's got the if someone's got Bhagavatam with them on the folio or something while we're reading, you can perhaps look for that. Look in 11th canto and see if we can remember, see if we can find out. Yeah. Anyway, so that's
Yes,
then.
each one of them speak, don't they?
Yes, that's it. Yeah.
True philosophy, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And then it is like, yeah, I've got it, but I can't just.
Anyway, perhaps I'll have a look while you're reading. I'll try and so you can continue reading. And
Okay.
well, actually, I can't. Yes, I can because my screen was shared like that. Okay.
Text 72. That world is attainable only by unbroken celibacy. Its residents, their semen retained flowing upward, feeling a constant peace and happiness millions of times greater than enjoyed by progenitors of the universe. Commentary. Vrata is a great vow of lifelong restraint from sex. One may begin observing celibacy after years of indulgence, or one may practice strict celibacy as a brahmachari for years of one's studies and then enter regulated married life. Both kinds of celibacy are very beneficial, but only the rare person with exceptional determination to refrain from all forms of sex for his entire life is allowed to become a resident of Tapaloka. Life on Tapaloka is all auspicious. There is no trouble from the heat of periodic annihilations and no need to migrate to a higher region. On Tapaloka, the capitalism at the annihilation of the three worlds go unnoticed. The Yogeshwara on Tapaloka enjoy undisturbed peace and satisfaction. Text 73. Especially for the householders like us, that person is worthy of worship as much as the Lord of sacrifice himself, for he has renounced all material duties. Commentary. Here the sages answer the question, why did you great souls worship him? Sanat Kumar is honored throughout the universe because he is a direct representative of the personality of Godhead. Learned authorities consider him an empowered incarnation of the Lord. And he is also a preeminent Vaishnav.
Preeminent.
Preeminent Vaishnav. The Prajapatis of Mahaloka especially revered him because he was their honored guest and a renounced brahmachari. The position of one who adheres to strict celibacy is generally considered superior to that of the grihasthas. But as the word Eva is in this verse implies, the great sages of Mahaloka are not ordinary householders. They have very little attachment to home, property, or other material things.
Yeah, I just looked, this is the 9 Yogendras. 9 Yogendras, and they speak with Marj Nimi. Marj Nimi, this is 11th, beginning from the 11th, right in the beginning, practically the whole of the 11th canto is the 9 Yogendras speaking. So Marj Nimi meets the 9 Yogendras, chapter 2. Then it goes on from there. Okay, so for you.
I was thinking of that because I remember when we went to Ahovalam, Karunamai, at the bottom there's the 9 Yogendras.
Yeah.
I couldn't place it with King Nimi, and when we were talking, I knew the Kavi and Havi, they all are there, but I couldn't place it.
Yeah, so these sages, they're very powerful, and although they have residence in a particular realm, through their yoga and mystic perfection, they can travel even down to the earthly realms and bless kings like Nimi. That's why Nimi was in such ecstasy to have darshan of the Navayogendras, you know. He asked them very, very wonderful questions, and that's recorded, and that's Sukadeva Goswami has included, that's been included in the Srimad Bhagavatam. And there's verses, and they speak verses glorifying Lord Chaitanya in there. That's where verses describing the appearance of Lord Chaitanya are there, by the verses of the Navayogendras. So it's very interesting. This was before Lord Chaitanya appeared. But any questions or comments why we've paused here? Okay, so yeah, Udva Retasaha. They are great sages. So it seems like just by following celibacy throughout one's life, I guess that would be accompanied by worship of the Lord or some type of worship, then one gains the adhikar to go to Tapaloka. So not an ordinary thing in this material world, not easily done in this material world, but is done by some. All right, you can continue reading text 74.
Text 74. Sri Gopal Kumar said, I then wondered, indeed, what kind of happiness do they enjoy on Tapaloka? How many more are there like him? And what kind of Lord do they worship? Commentary. Here, the answers of the sages was enough to inspire Gopal Kumar to go to Tapaloka, even though his main interest in life was to see the Lord of the universe. He did not consider such a journey inappropriate. He reasoned that if this wonderful person and the others on this planet, like him, possess opulences like those of God, whatever form of God they worship must be even more wonderful and opulent than they. Text 75. Eager to see all those persons for myself, I chanted my mantra with fixed attention, thus gaining great potency. I quickly traveled to that world. Commentary. Gopal Kumar wanted to see Sanat and his brothers on their own planet and see their worshipable Lord. He focused his mind intensely on this single aim, turning his attention inward in imitation of Sanat Kumar, whom he had seen absorbed in deep meditation. By the power of the mantra, he soon became infused with the same subtle strength as the Kumara brothers, and was quickly able to rise to their exalted planet.
Right, perhaps the next time we have a Brahmanas here, next time you chant your Brahma Gayatris, just try it. When you chant the Gopal mantra, meditate on Tapaloka and see if you can get there. Meditate, go into absorption while you're chanting the Gopal mantra and open your eyes and see if you manage to get there.
Wow, that would be amazing, wouldn't it?
You can meditate on the Vrindavan and you could be there in an instant. Unfortunately, we have to get unfortunately, it might not work. We have to get a visa. We have to get on the plane. Okay.
But the background, on your background, you've got Vrindavan.
Yeah, that's Vrindavan. That's the
Madan Mohan.
Madan Mohan temple in the background. Yes, yes.
I would love to be there right now.
Yeah. No,
This meditation, I was going to, we can change it. So when we're chanting that mantra, we can meditate. All along we were reading, what was it? On Monday, we were reading about being connected to one of the residents of Vrindavan.
Yeah, being a follower of the one of the.
Yeah, connecting to one. So I was thinking of reading this, I was thinking by chanting that mantra, we could meditate on being a resident of Vrindavan or something. And
well, the mantra itself, the meditation is on the gopis.
Gopis, yes.
Krishna Govinda, Gopi Jana Vallabha. Gopi Jana Vallabha. Also claim Krishnaya Govindaya, Gopi Jana Vallabha. Let me be inspired and absorbed in the love that is possessed by the gopis. Gopi Jana Vallabha Swaha. Let me sacrifice myself into that mood of worship, of love. So yes, very powerful mantras we have actually. Okay, Hare Krishna. So you can read a couple more of this. I can't see any more hands up yet.
Okay. Text 76. There I saw the same Sanat Kumar and the blessed Sanaka, Sanananda, and the fourth brother Sanatana. Text 77. The residents of Tapaloka who appeared similar to the Kumaras were honoring the four brothers. The Kumaras were enjoying among themselves a long discussion incomprehensible to persons like me. Commentary. The other residents of Tapaloka are also worshipable. simply because they resemble in bodily appearance as well as character the four Kumaras, who are directly empowered avatars of the Supreme Lord. When Gopakumar first saw these four brothers, they were elaborately discussing among themselves matters such as those narrated in chapter 87 of Srimad Bhagavatam's 10th canto, Prayers by the Personified Vedas. Gopakumar understood little of what they were talking about because he was uneducated about liberation and devotional service.
That's a wonderful chapter there. Does anyone recall reading that? It's very technical, it's very philosophical, but if you read through it with patience and try to understand it, it's a very wonderful discussion. It's quite a large chapter.
Philosophical.
Yeah.
It's happy to keep going.
Yeah, it's very exciting even to try and follow its progression of logic. I've studied it a couple of times and it's wonderful. So that's there if you like to read Prayers by the Personified Vedas, chapter 87. Okay. We have a hand up there, Mahaloka Latika. You like to read from 78?
Yeah, thanks. 78. Though they did not have the distinguishing attributes of God, from seeing their brothers on Tapaloka, I felt an intense, spontaneous joy. Commentary. Gopakumar usually derived his happiness only from seeing the Lord of the universe, but he was delighted to see the Kumaras because of their intimate connection with the Lord, even though they did not have 4 arms like Lord Vishnu or display his infinite powers. Because of the greatness of Tapaloka, seeing Sanat Kumar and his brothers there was more blissful for Gopakumar than seeing Sanat on Mahaloka. In general, a situation is glorious when the place and time are glorious, as well as the persons involved. Next one. When they went off to their respective places to absorb themselves in meditation, I started wandering, searching as always for the Lord of the universe. Commentary. When the assembly ended, the Kumaras and their associates vanished from the spot and returned to their individual places of meditation. Gopakumar, left to himself, turned his mind to his favorite topic, the Lord of the universe. He conjectured that since the Lord was visible on Swargaloka and Mahaloka, the Lord must be visible here as well. With that idea in mind, Gopakumar began searching. Why didn't he just ask someone where to find the Lord? He had no time to ask anything, because at first the 4 Kumaras had been receiving the worship of a large crowd of sages, and immediately afterwards everyone went back into trance.
Yeah, now as far as, I mean, I might be proved wrong, but as far as I recall, because Shivaram Swami Maharaj brings up a discussion in connection here, that the Lord is not to be found because their method of worship is to meditate upon the Lord within the heart. That's their practice. So let's see. I think he's going to be a bit disappointed because they don't worship the Lord in a manifest form, but they worship the Lord within the heart, and that's why they've gone into meditation. So let's see. As far as let's see.
Text 80.
Yeah, here it is. Look,
Not seeing him anywhere, I tried to inquire of the great sages, but as I stood before them, offering prayers and obeisances, they did not even look at me. Text 81. Virtually everyone there was fixed in samadhi. They were all self-satisfied, lifelong celibates, full in the achievement of all desires and served by mystic perfections. Commentary. Occasionally, the residents of Tapaloka have philosophical meetings or worship the Supreme, but otherwise they remain externally disengaged. Nothing in the outside world attracts them.
Okay.
Yeah. Text 82. This time, my constant desire to see the Supreme Lord was ungratified. and indeed, by the influence of the company of the sages, it seemed to dwindle almost to nil. Text 83. Nonetheless, I stayed there for some time, attracted by the display of great power, out of respect for my guru's order, and because I had seen how effective my mantra was, I kept on chanting. Commentary. The atmosphere of Tapaloka weakened Gopakumar's resolve to see the Lord, but still he persevered in chanting his japa. His guru had ordered him never to stop chanting, and Gopakumar did not want to be ungrateful by disobeying. So why did the atmosphere not help him on Tapaloka?
Yeah, well, this is the first time that Gopal Kumar is seeing this specific method of worship. If we just reflect on every place he has been to, there has been, the Lord has been manifest there to the residents and worshipped in wonderful ways. So that's what he has been experiencing, and that will cause him great ecstasy in getting the Lord's darshan. For instance, when he was in Mahaloka, then the Lord would appear at the conclusion of the sage's sacrifice, yagna, to receive their offerings. So everyone would feel great bliss and happiness. And then he would again become unmanifest again, so it caused some sadness. But again, being subservient to the devotion which they would do their yagna, the Lord would appear. So now he's in Tapaloka. Now, they're obviously, the residents there are more advanced than anywhere else he has been before. They're more powerful, and but there is no specific observable worship or darshan of the Lord. They're all in meditation. So yes, it's a wonderful place, and these persons are very powerful, and their presence is very, is very powerful. But there's no temple, there's no worship, there's no singing, there's no offerings. It's all they're all just in samadhi.
Sounds really boring.
Yeah, so from Gopal Kumar's point of view, it's a bit uninspiring.
Yeah.
This is supposed to be a better place than where I've just been, and here, no one's no one's dressing the Lord, no one's making garlands for him.
Yeah.
And it's sitting there in meditation.
Yeah.
So that's why they said, my Guru Maharaj brings this up as that's why the process of bhakti is superior to the process of this meditative samadhi, because there's service. So that's why he's feeling a bit undone.
Thanks. Nonetheless, I stayed there for some time, attracted by the display of great power, out of respect for my Guru's order, and because I had seen how effective my mantra was, I kept on chanting. Commentary. The atmosphere of Tapaloka weakened Gopakumar's resolve to see the Lord, but still he persevered in chanting his japa. His Guru ordered him never to stop chanting, and Gopakumar did not want to be ungrateful by disobeying. Okay. Thanks to the peaceful bliss in my heart that the nature of that place inspired, I chanted my mantra even more attentively than before. Thus, my desire to see the Lord actually increased. Commentary. At first, the refined atmosphere of Tapaloka seemed to affect Gopakumar negatively. The pervasive mood of self-satisfaction seemed to reduce his desire to have the company of the Supreme Lord. But that same peace of mind, characteristic of Tapaloka, gradually helped him improve his chanting, and then the mantra exerted its own influence. As ghee poured on a fire seems momentarily to extinguish the fire, but then gives it a new life. The atmosphere of Tapaloka only briefly decreased Gopakumar's desire to see the Lord of the universe.
Yeah, so now only briefly. So we might have that experience as well. That's why it's considered that that place in which we can more attentively meditate upon the mantra, upon the Maha Mantra, that is a favorable place. You know, so the place, you know, look, for instance, you can go to Vrindavan, you can chant, there's different places. So that place which enables you to meditate more deeply on the Maha Mantra, that's the place to be. So this atmosphere is helping him to chant his mantra. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
The sage Pippalayana noticed that I eagerly desired to go to Nilachala to see Lord Jagannath, who lives there always resplendent. The sage then spoke to me. Commentary. The thought of returning to Jagannath Puri kept resurfacing in Gopakumar's heart. First in Swarga, then on Mahaloka, and now here on Tapaloka, for Lord Jagannath did not manifest himself on the planets of the demigods and sages. Pippalayana Rishi, the middle son of 9 self-realized sons of Lord Rishabdev, observed Gopakumar wandering aimlessly, a sad, discouraged look on his face. Sri Pippalayana was practically omniscient, so he could easily understand the symptoms of Gopakumar's distraction. Text 86. Sri Pippalayana said, "Why do you want to leave this exalted place and go somewhere else? And why are you wandering around just to see the Supreme Lord with your eyes?" Commentary. In Pippalayana's opinion, the attempt to see the Supreme with one's eyes is useless because the Lord is imperceptible to the material senses. Tapaloka is the planet of the greatest masters of yoga who have completely controlled their sex urge. And the happiness enjoyed in Tapaloka is millions of times greater than that of the Prajapatis. Where else could Gopakumar want to go?
Yes, so it's an interesting point he's bringing up. He says the attempt to see the Lord with one's eyes is useless because the Lord is imperceptible to material senses. So a little debate is now being spoken of here. Yeah, continue, Mother. There's any questions or comments?
You know, it says the happiness enjoyed on Tapaloka is millions of times greater than that of the Prajapatis, but they're only meditating. I mean, is that bhakti yoga they're doing?
There's Shantaras. It's bhakti, but it's Shantaras, which means there's just appreciation of the Lord within the heart. There's no actual service. So it's the Shantaras. So in that sense, it is bhakti because the object of their meditation is Vishnu, as far as I understand.
Yeah.
So there is bhakti for that, but there is no service. There is no, because the next up from Santiras is Dasya.
Well, it seems like being at Soho is like millions of times better than being on Tapaloka.
Definitely.
Yeah, that's the point. That's a good point because that's what's coming out here in Gopakumar's desire is to go back to Puri to see to see Lord Jagannath.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if anyone's thinking of going to Tapaloka, better think twice.
Yeah.
You can.
So it's like Paramatma realization, just
Yes, as far as I understand. Yeah. Whenever meditation is mentioned here, whenever samadhi or meditation is mentioned, it always means meditation upon Vishnu. There is no such thing as impersonal meditation spoken of in the Vedas. If it doesn't mention it, we should presume that the object of their meditation is Vishnu.
Right.
There is no such, for them, there is no such paradigm of meditating on nothing or something impersonal. That's a corrupt misunderstanding of what yoga is meant for, to come to an impersonal conclusion. There is nothing impersonal in this world.
Yeah.
So we should conclude that. Although it hasn't mentioned specifically what their worshipful deity is, but we know from Srimad Bhagavatam who the Kumaras meditate upon.
Vishnu, 4 arms, right?
Yeah,
and they
four
hovered
on Vishnu.
around his lotus feet.
Yeah,
Right.
they smelt the
Tulsi.
Makaranda Vayu. There's one nice verse describes that they smelt the Tulsi come from the lotus feet of the Lord, and they felt a change in both body and mind. Yeah, it's interesting you bring up that because when they had darshan of Vishnu, when Vishnu appeared at the gates to Vaikuntha, this was their practice, this deep meditation, and completely unaffected by anything external. But when they smelt the Tulsi coming from the toes of the lotus feet of Vishnu, described that they felt a change in both body and mind. And to begin with, they thought they was becoming distracted. But what they experienced was a great ecstasy of appreciation, of bhakti in relation to Vishnu. So then they became, rather than meditators, they became, or rather than Brahmavadis, just meditating on the universal form, they became attracted to Vishnu. Yeah, that's there. Srimad Bhagavatam.
So until that they are on the Tapaloka, they still have a material body? Because I thought the Tapaloka, they have spiritual body.
It's, as far as I've understood, although it is not part of the spiritual world. It's the highest place you can go in the material realm. So they will have a body, but it will be probably a manifestation of sattva, that's for sure. It won't be like the material bodies here. Unless anyone knows about that? As far as I understand, they're still within the shell of the material realms. So although they're not subject to the annihilation at the end of Brahma's day, I'll have to check this, at the end of Brahma's night, or the end of Brahma's life, then again these places are annihilated. But I'll have to check that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, let's check. Okay, you can read on a little bit more.
Yeah, you should concentrate your mind in meditation. Then you will naturally see the Lord everywhere, within and without, as if always before you in person. Commentary. Gopal Kumar might ask why he shouldn't go where he can directly see the Supreme Lord, but Pippalayana advises him instead to focus his attention within. When one fully cultivates meditation and reaches the stage of samadhi, the form of the Lord will manifest itself on its own strength, without one separate endeavor, just as a person's face appears in a clean mirror. If Gopal Kumar follows the recommended yoga process, he will see the Supreme within and without, or at least seemingly so. Sakshat Eva. Since in fact the Supreme cannot be viewed with the external eyes, there is no use wandering around to find him.
Yeah, can anyone say now this advice, this direction, this shiksha was also given to a certain devotees, and they refused, and they became adamantly, they didn't like. Anyone know what I'm referring to? I'll test you now on your Bhagavatam. Krishna gave these instructions to who? I can give you a clue.
Was it Dhruva Maharaj?
No. He gave these instructions to the gopis, isn't it? When this is before the Ras dance, when Krishna called them with his flute, and then he told them they should go back. Then he gave them instructions here on meditation. If you go into meditate, but they wasn't satisfied with that. We are not yogis, and they complained to Krishna. Why are you saying such a thing like this? So it's the same instructions that Pippalayana is given Gopal Kumar, it's the same instructions that Krishna gave the gopis, but they refused to. They couldn't relate to what Krishna was saying. So no, we want to serve you. We don't want to meditate. Why should we meditate? You know? All right, let's see. Text 88. Continue.
Text 88.
As we finish to the end.
Lord Vasudeva, the Supreme Soul, the embodiment of eternity, knowledge, and bliss, reveals himself in a thoroughly purified heart and nowhere else. Commentary. Shri Vasudeva, this presiding Lord of consciousness, reveals himself only within Chitta, the heart, the subtle seat of awareness, more subtle than the mind. This is mentioned by Lord Shiva in the 4th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. The state of pure consciousness, Krishna consciousness, in which the Supreme Personality of Godhead is revealed with no covering, is called Vasudeva. In that pure state, I always offer obeisances to him, the Supreme Godhead known as Vasudeva, who is beyond the material senses. When one's consciousness is completely pure, meaning that it reflects nothing but the Supreme, then and only then does this Lord Vasudeva reveal himself within the heart, because he is the personal essence of the Supreme Truth, self-manifesting and indivisible. The external senses cannot perceive him. Text 89. Then, with nothing else going on in the mind, direct vision of Lord Hari with one's eyes takes place in the heart. Commentary. Here Pippalayana anticipates Gopal Kumar's doubt. Is the meditation Pippalayana is describing as valid as direct perception with one's eyes? Pippalayana argues here that when one seems to be seeing the Lord Hari with one's eyes, the source of that perception is actually one's heart. Only after the mind sets aside all other objects of perception does the Lord reveal himself in the heart. It is the mood, it is the mind that then perhaps performs the work of visualizing the Lord through the, though the perceiver does not consciously analyze. I am seeing the personality of Godhead, not with my eyes, but my mind. According to Pippalayana, one's realization of the Supreme Lord becomes vividly concrete by the power of the mind, not the eyes, which with their limited scope can neither comprehend the limbs of the Lord all at once, nor fully recognize his enchanting beauty.
Yeah, it's interesting that he's got some points here. It's interesting how this is going to unfold. Yeah, it seems to be, and this often it's like this when great sages are explaining this, it seems to be very logical. Yes. But as we read on, let's just, I can't help but I'll just read this last one, then we'll pause there. When the mind is happy, all the senses are automatically happy. Or the functions of the senses, speech, vision, hearing, and so on, are included within those of the mind. Gopal Kumar might prefer the tangible pleasure of seeing with his eyes to the abstract enjoyment of the mind. But here Pippalayana tells him that mental happiness extends not only to the eyes, but to all one's senses. Indeed, when the mind is distressed, the senses will surely not perceive happiness, because the senses will not even be invoked to contact their objects. The correlation between mental happiness and sensory happiness is natural and automatic, since all the senses are rooted in the mind. Just as the branches and leaves of a tree are nourished when the tree is watered at the root, when the mind is satisfied, so too are the senses, with no need for them to make separate efforts. Still, Gopal Kumar might say that what the mind does when one remembers falls short of what the organs like those of speech and vision do when one chants and sees. In other words, don't the senses bring many but varied enjoy greater pleasures than the mind? Pippalayana answers that the functions of all the senses are included in the functions of the mind. Chanting the Lord's name, seeing his deity, and all other sensory activities are made possible by the actions of the mind. All right. Let's leave that on the cliffhanger then, and we'll join it next week, because this is not what we do. We engage, we do meditate on mantra, the Maha Mantra, we meditate upon Krishna, but we also engage as senses in the Lord's service, and we take darshan of the deity of the Lord. Yeah. Atasi Krishna namadi na bhavet kriyam indriyai. So that's our specific practice that's been given to us. We have not been given the practice of mystic samadhi meditation. Yeah. All right, let's see where we go on this next Thursday. All right, so let's pause there. Thank you for joining us. We had 14 devotees with us this evening. Thank you for joining us. I hope you're finding this interesting. Gopal Kumar's amazing journey. It's very wonderful to read and hear and discuss. So thank you, everyone, and look forward to being with you for our next discussion on Monday. Okay, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Vaishnavyo namo namaha. Krishna.